Hello you guys, and welcome back to Naturally Catholic. My name is Heather. If you're new, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, welcome again. I'm so glad you're here. In today's video, I wanted to talk about living a sacrificial motherhood. Okay, so jumping right into this video, I wanted to talk about 3 things that I think as mothers we should really take inventory of and ask ourselves if we're doing this. We're not perfect. I know sometimes we feel like we have to be perfect and we have to do everything by the book, and that's just not something that is realistic. So I think the number one thing to realize, especially if you're someone who is very hard on yourself and you're always expecting perfection, is to first recognize and realize that you will never obtain perfection in this life. So realizing that first is going to be very helpful for you. It doesn't mean that you definitely can't strive for perfection. I think that that's very important for mothers to strive to be the best that they can be, the best version of themselves. But realizing that you're never going to be the perfect mother is very important to just recognize and get out of the way in your head. So jumping right into it, let's talk about some of the things. So number one, being a humble mother. So this can look different for many people, but for me, being humble is thinking less of myself. I am a person who is definitely very vain at times. I'm very consumed with wondering how I look on the outside, how am I presenting myself, what does my home look like to others, what do people think of me if I were to do this or that. And I'm just being totally honest, that's something that I struggle with. I know that it's not important. I definitely try to humble myself. So ways that I do that is dressing a certain way, trying to be more modest, trying to wear less makeup, maybe going out to the grocery store and not doing my makeup, so that it just helps me to be more humble and not worry about what other people are thinking. It definitely helps you if you're someone who struggles with that. Also just being comfortable in the things that you have already, not going and buying new outfits or wanting to always buy the cutest and the newest. I've mentioned before in some of my videos, I love to find clothes from thrift shops and resale shops, and that is another way that I just try to humble myself. So it's gonna look different for everyone, but if you're someone who is like me and maybe you struggle with some of the things that I struggle with, that is what I do to try to humble myself. Number 2, going without. So I think as a mom, we go without a lot. There are definitely things that we used to buy before kids that we are not purchasing now. So that is something that we do already without thinking about it, something that is definitely sacrificial. But I think that if we're honest with ourselves, there are still things that maybe we purchase that we don't realize that we're purchasing because we're so used to doing it that we could go without. So personally for me, that would be picking up a cup of coffee while I'm out or getting fast food with the kids, because sometimes it's just easier. And if you're like me and we live like 45 minutes away from a grocery store, the kids definitely get hungry. And so unless I'm intentional and I make a lunch before we go, or I pick up something at the grocery store, we're definitely gonna have to stop and get something to eat. But being more intentional, sacrificing a little bit more of my time to prep ahead of that and making sure that I have something for them is definitely something that you can do. Also, like I mentioned, I like to get coffee. Other things that I like to do, or maybe pick up 1 or 2 things here and there when I'm out at the grocery store for myself. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. I don't want anyone to think that picking something up for yourself is a bad thing. But what I'm trying to get you to understand, or realize I should say, is that there are things that without thinking we pick up that maybe if we thought about, there might be a cheaper option, or maybe we just don't need that, you know? So maybe, for instance, it's your $6 hand soap that you just love because you love the way it smells. Maybe there is an alternative. Maybe you can buy in bulk, or maybe you can buy a cheaper hand soap. So like those small little sacrificial things that you can do, it really helps to make you more of a virtuous wife. So those are some of the things that you can do that fall under the category of going without. My husband is mowing outside, so definitely hear that. Sorry about the noise. But okay, so number 3, taking on tasks that take more time and more energy. So being a mother, obviously our time is very valuable, and the energy that we do have, especially right after that cup of coffee, is very valuable. So ask yourself, what are some of the things that you can do that you could probably add to your list of chores as if you don't have enough. But again, talking about living a sacrificial life, what are some of the things that you can do that would maybe help your family financially or just help your family in general? For me, that looks like doing cloth diapers, and it definitely takes more energy and more time. Making sure that I am spraying off the poop from the diapers and making sure that those get put away properly, and making sure I wash those every 3 days on time. And so those things for me take more energy and more time, but it also saves my family a ton of money. So what are some of the things that you can do, or some extra tasks that you can take on that are going to help save your family money and also help your household? I think a lot of the times as mothers, we forget hundreds of years ago, homemaking was a lot harder. There was definitely a lot more work that was put into it. Not only did they have to cook everything, they also had the responsibility of the children, and if you weren't someone who could afford to send your children to school, they had to teach their children, so they were homeschooling. And they were probably on land, so they were also responsible for tending the land and making sure that the animals were taken care of. So it was definitely a lot more strenuous. There was a lot more responsibilities. So today we definitely have a very laxed and easier motherhood. There's not so many responsibilities like there were back in the day. Like, I could not imagine if every time I needed butter, I would have to go and get it from my cow and then churn it myself. Like, that would be a lot of work. We have that luxury of being able to buy it at the grocery store, and I think that we forget that a lot of the times as mothers, and we want to feel sorry for ourselves and have a lot of pity. And I think that we just need to really focus on the good and realize that we are in control of making it as hard as we want on ourselves, and we definitely have it good. So there's no need to make it hard on ourselves for no reason. But maybe we need to look at how mothers had to do things back in the day, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, and look at our lives now and think, wow, we could really choose and pick some of those things that they did back in the day and add that to our everyday now, and it would make us more sacrificial as mothers, and in turn that makes you more of a humble mother. And that's all I'm saying. In today's world, a lot of moms have housemaids, and they send their kids to public school, and they stop and get their coffee, or they maybe don't cook a home cooked meal and they get fast food. I'm not saying that you're a terrible person if you do 1 or 5 or all of those things, but what I am saying is ask yourself, what would it look like if I took one of those conveniences and I did it myself? How would that benefit me and my family? I think that you'll realize that when you take on those tasks, not only does it make you a better person, a better mother, but it also helps you to be more intentional, not only with your time, but with your family and your home. And I believe that a lot of those things, such as, daycare and public school and mothers being outside of the home, also like picking up fast food and the housemaid, all of that stuff, it's not that it's a bad thing. I think it's appropriate when it's needed. But I definitely also believe that it really doesn't do any good for us as mothers. I think that it takes us further away and it disconnects us from our responsibilities, and in turn it makes it more difficult. And then you look back 10 years later and you think of all the intentional time that you could have gained if you would have done those things on your own. And I think about myself when I'm cooking or cleaning or homeschooling the children. Those are things that I will forever cherish and remember because I was intentional and I did them myself. And so I don't want to ever look back and say, man, I missed those 5 years, the first most important years, because I maybe thought I couldn't handle it, and I put my child in a Mother's Day Out program and I missed that time because I just felt overwhelmed. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. I want you to be able to embrace that time and definitely know that you can do it, and that it's what you were made to do. So just something to think about, okay? So please don't take this as me coming across judgmental. I really truly want to help mothers to realize their roles and to embrace their roles, because they're wonderful things, and God gave them to us as a gift. So please remember that. So before I leave you in this video, I do want to challenge you. Here's my challenge for you. Ask yourself, what are some of the things that I can pick up to help me to be more of a sacrificial mother and a sacrificial wife? What are some of the things that I can drop that maybe aren't as important? Impulsive buying or small things that really aren't going to benefit my home. What are some of those things? And the challenge I would do is to swap those conveniences out with you doing it yourself and taking on that sacrifice and just seeing how that plays out in your life. Do that for a month and see how that changes things for you. And once you've gone through that for a month, let me know in the comments below if it helped you at all. Okay, that's it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Again, all of this coming from a place of love. I'm not perfect. I definitely do all of these things myself, and I sometimes fail, and sometimes I have small success, and it makes me feel so much better, and it pushes me on to do better. Thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, God bless.